Well, now that the election is over, President Obama's first order of business is dealing with the impending fiscal cliff. Joining us to talk more about that this morning is David Seeger from Great Lakes Credit Union.
There's that depressing board again.
Yes,
it is.
Boy.
And so it's the U.S. debt clock. Let's talk a little bit about this.
It's changed some. We did a story about this about 3 months ago.
Right.
And the debt has increased $161 billion just in that 3-month period. And the debt per taxpayer, your portion of it, has increased like, $2,000.
Oh, I was going to say 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
About $2,000. In fact, it's gone up from $141,598 a week ago to $141,709 in just 5-6 days.
Those numbers.
Well, we just had an election. That ought to make a difference, right?
So better do something. That's right.
All right. So yeah, let's talk about this. Kind of just basically explain what the fiscal cliff, like how it even became about. Just give us the basics of that.
Well, it came about last year, in August of 2011. The president and the people in Congress, they had to decide upon how we're going to raise the debt limit. This type of thing over here. So in doing so, they came up with a deal, okay, we need to reduce our total deficit. And if we don't, we're going to have these series of cuts and tax increases by the end of this year. And they didn't reach agreement, so consequently, we're facing the fiscal cliff at this point.
Sequestration, right?
That is correct.
Well, President Obama said we weren't going to have that in the debate. Is he going to be able to hold that true to his word on that?
Well, we're going to have to do something, and that's what the problem is. I'm hoping that they can do something by the end of the year. There are some talk about kicking the can down the road into next year. Yes, and if we let's just say if we would do something like that, and I hope that comes up. There we go. I went too far. I went too far.
That's all right.
But at any rate, what it would be, well, here it is. This 2016. This is what the debt clock has it. 22.6 trillion instead of 16 trillion right now.
Nice.
In 4 years, they did nothing, which they've done before.
$22 trillion.
Yeah, almost
$70,000 into debt per citizen.
That is correct. That's if they kick the can down the road, which they've done so far.
Okay, so we look at all these numbers, but just kind of give us the basics of what it will mean to the average American if nothing is done.
Okay, the Bush tax cuts will expire at the end of the year. So on the low end, if you were in the 10% tax bracket right now, you go to the 15. On the high end, you're at 35, you go to 39.6. That is one of the major impacts that you're going to see in terms of taxes, in terms of the increase. It's going to affect everybody there. Capital gains is a go from 15 to 20%.
Isn't that going to hurt business?
It's going to have an impact on it. Yes, it is.
Well, what would this do for the economy?
Oh, what would happen is this. It'll probably put us into a recession. It is estimated that it will reduce our total output by 2 to 4%, and that'll put us into negative territory in terms of GDP.
Exactly. Wow, because we're at 2 now. If it goes down 3 or 4%, that's negative territory.
Exactly.
Recession city.
Exactly. We don't have a lot to work with right now. Consequently, if it goes into effect, it'll slow down that much. We will be in a recession by the end of the year. Unemployment a year from now, 9.1%.
Wow.
And the real number probably up to 16 or 17%.
Oh, the
use 6 number.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable.
Okay. Well, we do have to take a break, but coming up next hour, I want to talk to you about why, let's do something about this, why politicians, it's not happening. So we'll talk about that coming up next hour. Thanks so much,
Elections have consequences, don't they?
All right. Well, the fiscal cliff, every news outlet, it's leading headlines. Everybody's talking about it, but what exactly does it mean? Joining us to talk more about that is David Seeger. Hi, David.
Morning.
All right. So we had a great conversation last hour, kind of a depressing conversation. We're looking at the U.S. debt clock. If nothing happens by December 31st, what does this basically mean for the average American?
Well, there's a few things that's going to happen. Number one, the Bush tax cuts will come to an end. So if you're at the 10% tax bracket right now, it'll take you to the 15. If you're in the 35, which is the high end, you go to the 39.6. Also, the capital gains tax will go from 15 to 20%.
Ouch.
The marriage penalty tax will come back again as well. And the child credit credit will go down from $1,000 to $500 back to where it was before. The alternative minimum tax will come back as well. And that's going to have a bigger impact than the tax. It's estimated next year it'll raise $125 billion in tax dollars, the EMT, and the tax increases for the tax rates will be increased revenue by $110 billion. So that's huge.
Social Security, which is a big part of everybody's paycheck that's coming out, that will go back up to 6.2%.
Right, exactly.
Right now it's at 4.2.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow.
So there's a number of things that's going to be hitting the books.
So taxes are going to go up.
Yes.
Our net incomes are coming down.
Correct.
GDP, unemployment going up.
It will if this,
Potentially.
yes, exactly, potentially. If first of all, if they don't do anything about this and we go off the financial cliff in terms of these different things that's going to happen, it could very well put us into a recession.
Yeah.
GDP is getting weak right now, so it'll bring it down to the negative numbers sometime during the year.
So the obvious question, why aren't they doing anything about this right away?
That's the $64 question. Actually, the $16 trillion question,
Right.
to be honest with you.
Exactly. And that
that's just
$16
crazy.
trillion, if they don't do anything in 4 years, you mentioned in the last hour, it's going to go up to $22 trillion.
Exactly. If they did nothing at all, it'll go to 22 trillion, close to 23 trillion.
And this is a long time coming. I mean, is it just a matter of people pushing it on to the next year? Is that basically what's happening?
Kicking the can down the road. We're
Nobody
really good
wants
at that.
to just take responsibility. So, as you explained a little earlier, they've basically written bad checks for a lot of years.
Right.
Is that kind of what you can sum this up as?
Exactly. Exactly.
How are people getting away with doing that?
Well, so there's a lot of prosperity by the fact of the matter. If you can write $16 trillion worth of bad checks, hot checks, you know, you can get away with a lot. You can have a lot of stimulus and a lot of good things that you can do, and makes it look like it's good. But now there's a day of reckoning.
The real number that hits everybody is that debt per citizen over $51 million, and the debt per taxpayer is almost triple that, almost over $140,000 every person that pays taxes.
Exactly. These are the people that pay taxes. These are the guys that pays the bills. Yes.
So it basically is coming down to right now the reason that nothing is really being done is because it's a divide in parties. One party wants to do one thing.
Exactly.
What do you think is going to happen? What do you think personally,
well,
as a financial advisor? What do you think will happen?
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have an agreement by the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So what they would do, they would kick it to the new Congress, and they will have to make a decision. Hopefully, they will make it retroactive to January 1, wherever they decide. But there's going to be some revenue increase, and there's going to be some cuts. There's going to have to be.
Well, no matter what, taxes will increase January 1st, right?
For somebody, yes. And that's the $64 question as well. Who's going to pay the bill for this? Are we going to raise taxes on people over $250,000, or is everybody going to pay some into the to the scheme of things?
Wow. All right, David. Thank you so much. We're always glad to see you, but not on a subject like this. All right. Thank you. We really appreciate it.